So this month we're recording. So that way, if you're listening to the replay or you want to listen to the replay, you have it. Because last month we got so excited talking, I forgot.
The last month was
Anyway,
so good.
Barry and I
Yeah.
were just talking about just, phones, and I had lost my phone. I couldn't remember where I put it, and I needed it for something we're doing tonight. But yeah, our pastor started off our his sermon yesterday talking about some like just some of the findings they're finding around what's happening in the brain, because of the fact that we're always scrolling and just how like we have literally lost this ability to concentrate and contemplate, right? To concentrate and contemplate. And I thought, like, how sad is that? And the more and more that we are, tethered to these devices and the more that we're consuming them, every 12 minutes, the average person is checking their phone. The average person spends 4 hours and 37 minutes a day on this one device, and 52% of that time is during work hours, which I thought was really interesting, especially as I work with business owners. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I mean, now again, there are very good ways. I sent a lot of voice messages today to people and, and did different things on here that were beneficial that would have counted into my time. But let's be honest, there still are the like, oh, I should go look that up on Amazon. Oh, I need to put that in my cart. Oh, I want to, whatever. That yeah, distracts us. So anyway, long story short, yeah, this is that time thing that yeah, that oftentimes we're giving a lot of time away to, and it's taking away from what it is that really matters. So
Yeah.
you
When you
say,
see the statistics, it's amazing.
yeah, if you ever think you don't have time, go check your screen time. You do have time. You just chose to spend it otherwise. Don't feel bad
Hmm.
about it. Just make a decision. Is that what the number I want to look at the next time that I, pull this up? So,
Hmm.
yeah. Well, speaking of time, today is August 25th. Do you know what 4 months from today is? Christmas.
Christmas.
Hello, my dad has this thing like the 25th of every month, like January 25th. I'm getting a message that's 11 months from today is Christmas. Like, thanks, Dad. But you get to this
Countdown
time of
is
the
on.
year and it's like 4 months, and you're like, ah, right? So, first, here's my reminder. You have time. 4 months is a
Oh,
long
thank you.
time, right? Like, it's not tomorrow, right? You have time. And I love the fact that like we are literally sitting here on the Monday before Labor Day weekend, which is like this official, unofficial end of summer, start of fall, right? And we get to decide as we do this work here together tonight, am I going to step into September and the months that follow by default, just letting that time get away, letting it get filled up with all the Skittles, right? Or am I going to fill it by design, right? With the oranges, those things that really matter and putting those in first, right? And so I just want to make sure that everyone who hears this, hopefully you hear this before tomorrow, but if not, that's okay. Um, if you're really serious about not just being good with time, but really like seeing things shift with your time, this week we are doing the CEO time warp. It's happening on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 12 o'clock Central. And yes, there are replays because I know that some of you don't have that time freedom at that time. And so I don't want that to be your excuse. So believe me, you will get replays in multiple different places so you can't miss it. It's going to be up to you, right, if you choose to do that, right? But here's the thing, we can choose to step into September by default or by design, right? We can choose to approach our time and say, I'm going to manage this, keep it from getting away. I'm going to multiply this, right? Get more in return so that I can give more away, right? We can choose to spend time or we can choose to scale time. So, what we're going to do this week is we are going to not only shift our mindset from busyness owner to CEO, because it always starts in the head first before we get into a calendar. But then we are going to workshop together on the call a time scaling tool each day that you can start implementing right away. Because, right, time is our most precious asset in any area of our life, whether it's our business, our ministry, our health, our relationships, fill in the blank, even taking care of your home, right? Like time is that number one resource. And so we want to be wise stewards of it and we want to be investors of it, right? Where we are producing a RODI, a return on time invested. So if you're not already registered to get those replays, just head to redeemhertime.com/warp and you can get into CEO Time Warp happening this week, right? Because no more being distracted or disorganized or feeling like you're disconnected from those bigger dreams or goals or visions that you have. Like we're going to take time to the next level. And like I said, this is not for the person who says, Lissa, I'm good with time, right? Like this is for that person who says, what more can I do with my time? And that doesn't mean giving more time to things. Actually, what we're going to do is look at how we can pull back the number of hours that we're investing, but increase at the same time the results that's coming out of it. And I know Debbie is on here live and she's like, I need this. She sent me a message after this video that I sent out to everyone today. And she's like, I so need this. And here's what I want to say to you, Debbie, and to everybody else who's listening. Yes, there'll be great information this week. And yes, the information that you hear this week is not what you can Google because nobody's talking about time scaling. Nobody's talking about, business owners or CEOs in the way that we do. Nobody's talking about time stewardship in the way that we do. But the key is going to be the implementation piece. The key is going to be that, right? And so that is really what's going to make the biggest difference and make the biggest shift is what you do with what we're doing this week. So, anyway, all that to say, I encourage you to come and join us or at least commit to watching the replays. And yeah, you'll see that there's an opportunity in a couple of opportunities inside of there to really see the 4 months that we have left in the year look completely different than maybe the way the first 8 months have looked. So, all right, before we dive in though, I started all of this conversation with talking about the illustration that our pastor shared yesterday. And we've been in Philippians. We go like verse by verse. Sometimes it like takes a really long time. It took us an entire year to get through the book of Hebrews. So we're almost through the end of Philippians, and we're in Philippians 3. And there are just a couple of things in here that just, my time strategy brain starts like going haywire when I see certain words and I hear certain things and I think about this. So in Philippians 3, it says, um, one thing I do, right? Paul is talking about this one thing that he does. And that one thing, my brain went up because I thought, oh, the one thing. We talk about the one thing, right? What is my one thing, right? Like how, because when we're scattered everywhere, we're not going anywhere, right? And so I'm like, okay, if Paul has a singular focus, what is his one thing? And if you look at the context and kind of pull back to what he was just talking about in that chapter, it's to know him, it's to become like him, and that's to spend eternity with him. That's his one thing, right? And he goes on then in the few verses later, the ones that we were in actually yesterday, talking about that we are to imitate Paul with this one thing focus and keep our eyes on those who walk according to this same example, right? And I love that. And it gives us the reminder of how do we focus on the one thing? Here it is, right here. We talked about this as CEOs this morning in our coaching call. It is because our citizenship is in heaven. Philippians 3:20. When we are tempted to get distracted by the rings, dings, and pings, or the shoulda, woulda, couldas, or just, the things that happen in the world around us, right? We can get off in the weeds, right? We can get off in the pit. We can get off in the muck, right? And then all that time that we spend over there is taking us away from what our one thing focus should be, right? This is not all there is. This is not where all this is ending up, but that's how the world around us is living. So we need to have this one thing focus, right? That I am seeking to know him, it's this upward call of God in Christ Jesus, which is to a relationship with him, right? In eternity with him. And how does that happen? By transforming, being renewed by our mind, right? Not being conformed to the world around us, but being renewed. And I think we need this reminder. I needed this reminder sitting there yesterday, and I was thinking about this call tonight as we step into September, that regardless of what we're about to put down on paper, about all these other things that we could or should or think or need to do, and a lot of them are really important. So I'm not saying that at all. But the ultimate one thing that we should make sure that we are focusing our time and attention on, right, is knowing him, right? And inviting others to know him, right? They should be able to see by the way we invest our time that we are different. They should be able to see by the results from our time, by our response to when, things intersect our plans, that we are not just citizens of this earth and our mind is not just set on earth, but our mind is, is set on our heavenly home. So just want to start with that encouragement today, because I think sometimes it's very easy to just see what's right in front of us or what's around us. And so it's just that reminder to look up and remember what that one thing focus needs to be. So that was from Philippians 3, kind of scattered throughout there. I encourage you, read the whole chapter. Always read things in context, right? Because he keeps saying this in my Bible. I kept drawing lines to what's the this, that this is, is this one thing over here and, that kind of thing. So anyway, love how the word is always living and active and gets to the heart, right? Gets to our thoughts and motives, which we need. So, all right. Well, we are heading into a new month. But before we do that, we're a small group tonight, so I would love to be able to do this, like just unmute if you are willing. What is part of your CEO praise report from the month of August? Now, I know we're not done yet. We still have another week because the first is not until next Monday. But as you're looking back in the last couple of weeks, what's one thing, no matter how big or how small, whether you've already written it down in your monthly CEO praise report or whether you haven't, is there anyone who'd be willing to share just something that you're praising God for as you're about to step into a new month? Or maybe it's not just from the month of August. Maybe you're kind of looking back at, where we've been or where you've come thus far this year.
Well, for me, it's not one thing in particular. It's just the idea that I feel like I'm going off on bunny trails less. I'm
Mm,
focusing on, what like you mentioned earlier, you can go
mhm.
off into the weeds or whatever. And that's just a huge thing for me. I mean, whether it's just sometimes I like to do cherry pick and do the easier things first, And so I've just been trying to focus this last month on, do what needs to be done first, do the most important thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you can never get everything. I can't
Exactly.
anyway.
Exactly. No, right? And yeah, it feels good to be able to check the box or put the sticker on the chart or whatever your little reward system is, right? And yet, right, is that really the thing that, that you really needed to do? And so I love to just boil it down, Mary, to this, knowing what to do
Mhm.
and to do it and how it connects to this bigger one thing, right? How it connects to this purpose that God's given you, right? Like that is going to give clarity around, is this a rabbit trail I should go down? Or am I going to just kind of say, nope, I see you hopping away, but nope, I'm going to keep going this direction. So I love that, Mary. That's great. Think about all that time saved,
Mhm.
right? When you are not so quick to go down some of those, or maybe once recognizing it sooner and, getting back to the main path where you needed to be.
It's a work in progress.
We're
But
always a
yes.
work in progress, girl.
Yeah.
We are all a work in progress for sure. Good. Anyone else? A CEO praise report, something you're noticing, experiencing, thanking God for?
I'll give one.
Yeah, I like your
And
little light. Is that new? Your little fox light?
oh no, it's a little fox like decoration behind me. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen it before. I think it's fantastic. It's total branding for, yeah, who you are, what you do. So, okay, sorry, I was distracted.
I put it there for the recordings that I was doing, which is my praise that I launched a new product and stepped out of my comfort zone and am in the process of recording the modules. And they may not be what they're going to be eventually, but they're a start and I did it. So
Yeah.
that's a praise.
And think back to like the conversation you and I had in January when like this felt so big and so far away, and I don't even know what this looks like. I remember you and I like having that strategy session. It was just like, I don't even know, right? And yet, even while you were still figuring that out, you were taking action towards it. And like you said, it's only going to get clearer and clearer, right? As people start interacting with it and as you continue to grow and all of that. So I love it. I love it. God's at work, you guys. And sometimes it's, huge measurable things, and sometimes it's these intangible things that we're seeing. So, yay. Okay. Well, I want to make sure we spent some time to do that. And I encourage you before the end of this month, set aside 15 minutes. Doesn't have to be a ton of time. Maybe it's only 5 minutes to go back through the month of August. Use like, almost make your planner like a little mini time capsule, right? So that way, like, you should be able to kind of go back and see what kinds of things were happening, right? Last week, the week before that. What were some things that God was doing? What was fruit that came of that? Maybe it didn't happen that week, but maybe you've seen it since. And jot those things down on the CEO monthly praise report page, because this is what's going to help us recognize and notice, right? The good things that are happening, the progress that's being made, especially when we kind of sometimes feel like I'm not going anywhere or it's really slow or it's not what I expected or wanted it to be. So having a place to capture that, I think is going to be, yeah, really, really helpful. So did you want to say something, Debbie? You popped on the camera part, so I just want to make sure I'm not cutting you off if you did. You don't have to. Just
Main praise, I guess, would be just the peace, and also that I feel like I'm hearing from God more often. And even in little things like today, He'll just give me some little tidbit that gets me through the day.
right? Yeah. Usually we're the ones who are fingers in our ears, right? Or just we are going at such a pace that we don't even hear or notice. And so the fact that you're noticing and hearing is fantastic and a huge praise report. So I love that. And Debbie had some great things to share with our CEOs this morning, and changes she's noticing and seeing, especially when the unexpected happens, and it seems to dump more to-dos on your plate with already the little time you have. And so Debbie's response to that was just such a sign of her growth and how these things aren't affecting her in the same way that they used to. And yeah, that's a beautiful thing. So I love it. All right. Well, let's go into our planning process. So we're going to be turned to the pages in your planner right before the next month, which are the monthly brain dump and the monthly planning. Um, this is kind of, again, this transition point. And it's interesting because sometimes, like if you have younger kids or grandkids, speaking of which, around, like you're probably getting back into school routines and, that kind of thing. But maybe you don't have kids around, or grandkids around, but maybe like things are starting back up again at church that have been on pause for the summer. Or maybe you've been traveling or just kind of in a different mode and you're really just kind of wanting to come back to some more regular rhythms and routines. Like this is a great time to really think about what are those oranges that I really want to make time for. So we're going to spend a few minutes just doing that brain dump first. Because when we hold it all up here, sometimes it can get a little jumbled. It can take up too much space and it leads to a lot of decision fatigue, right? When we're trying to hold it all up here rather than actually being able to see it in front of us. So I'm going to set the timer for few minutes. I'll probably do like 3, 4 minutes. And this is a time to do your brain dump. So as you're looking ahead to the month of September, it might be helpful if you already have your monthly spread and you've already started putting things on there to start looking ahead at that. Or it might be that there are some things on your phone that you made notes of or got on your digital calendar that haven't gotten over here. That could be a great place to go. Or again, maybe it's just things that you're thinking about, that are starting back up again or that you want to make sure that you make time for. So let's brain dump, write those things, and then take a few minutes to start seeing what can go in these different categories at the bottom. The delete, the delegate, this is one you're going to hear me talking a lot about, especially this week as we talk about time scaling, the delay, and the delight. Okay, so I'll start the timer and give us about 4 or 5 minutes or so if we do both sections there. And yes, it's okay as you're doing this that there are some business related things, some ministry related things, some family related things, or personal things. This is kind of just the brain dump place that everything kind of gets put, and then we can start categorizing. So Give you about 2 more minutes. Okay. Is that brain emptying out a little bit? Hopefully it's helpful as things start getting down in front of you. But here's where sometimes we can feel overwhelmed looking at that list because that pile feels bigger than, than we realized when we see it all in one place. Or sometimes we look at it and go, oh, okay. Especially if you're focusing on the oranges, maybe there's not as much as I really thought. And maybe I will have time this next month. Of course, we're going to believe that, right? So what we're going to do is step into our P's, and our first one is our pause. Okay, so right now in this moment, right? Even after brain dumping all these things and feeling the feel that you're feeling right now, what is God saying to you as you look ahead at this next month? Go ahead and take a minute and just pause and write down anything that comes to mind. Maybe it's a scripture, maybe it's a word, maybe it's a phrase, maybe it's a reminder. Maybe, Debbie, it was what you heard earlier today that you needed to hear. Okay, our next P is position. And I have a really funny story to tell, and I'm gonna have to show you guys this too. So come back to me if you haven't. So we talk about having a focus word, right? And back in, I don't know when it was, maybe March, several of the CEOs got to be a part of this focus word. I forget what we called it. But some kind of we put together this word, right, that we could like put in front of us that we could be reminded of it to keep us like again anchored, right? Keep make it either that banner that we're like marching towards or the anchor that pulls us back, whichever way you like to think of it. And so my word is expectant. And I kind of drew this grapeviney thing. I'm not going to show it to you yet because I can tell you the story before I actually show it to you. There's this grapeviney thing, like this expectancy of fruitfulness, right? Like knowing that when the seeds are planted, like, and when I'm trusting the Lord of the harvest, that like there will be fruit that is produced. And so my word is expectant. Well, the other day, I was sitting here, I think it was right after a CEO call actually, and I took a sip of coffee and I don't know what happened, but like somehow I kind of like choked on it. And literally coffee went like spraying like everywhere. So like there's all this like space in front of me here, my computer, my vision board, my lamp, my microphone, like everything had it, including my word. I don't know if you can see my coffee that's splattered all over it. And so I pulled this and I was like, oh, I'm gonna throw this away. Like that's ruined now. And it was so interesting because, okay, I'm trying to think of like how to tell you guys this story. Um, I like had been having a conversation with this woman about the ripple effect of something she was launching. And it was connected to coffee and whatever. And oh no, here's why I reached out to her because my vision board that's sitting right up here above my computer screen literally has coffee all over it. Like I could wipe off, a lot of other things, but I couldn't get it off my Word and I couldn't get it off my vision board. And then I remembered that like literally that was the day before was the day that she was launching this new vision board resource that's about what's God putting on your vision board, not just what do we want to put on our vision board. And so I reached out to her to tell her the story or whatever. But anyway, so here now I don't have this pretty focus word or what I think is a pretty focus word, and I almost threw it away. And as I was sitting over here on the corner of my desk in my pile of stuff to take out of my office yesterday, I was like, no. Like sometimes this is what happens, right? Like it's the coffee that like spills everywhere that makes the biggest impact, that has the ripple effect, and like even my little voice message to this woman about why I was thinking about her vision board because now my vision board was ruined and I needed a new one and I didn't want it to be a Lissa one, I want it to be a God one. Long story short, was a blessing to her and just a reminder that God was doing a ripple effect through her. So even if your word looks a little messy, this is my point, right? Let's get to the point. Even if you picked this word a long time ago and it's looking a little messy right now, don't throw it away because maybe, just maybe, God has a lesson for you in that word, right? I think my expectancy was this like pretty juicy, shiny fruit, right? And here now I've got this coffee splattered thing, but now it will make me smile every time I see it. And I'll keep it here until the end of the year. And then when God gives me a new word, then it will be white on the background again. But anyway, that's my long story short to say my word is expectant, and it still is, even though it doesn't look the way I expected it to. So, what is your word? Again, we always talk about this. It could be the same word all year. It could be the word that like God is just putting in your spirit right now. Like, what is that word that's going to be what keeps you connected to the bigger purpose, to where He's drawing you in this next year? Write down that word. Even if you've written it down every month this year so far, it's okay. Write it down again, right? We need repetition. And then how would you like rate how aligned you are to that or what you can do to be in more alignment with that? Right. And I love it. Thank you, Emmy. Emmy's is journey, which means daily portion, which is so interesting. I love when we look into the meanings of words and then they mean something like really cool and it makes it even, better. So yeah, what is that word? Why does it matter? How are you either, in alignment with that or how are you sensing God to bring you into alignment with that? Open-handed. I love that, Danielle. And that definitely goes into like taking this dream, right? And this like, okay, open-handed. I'm like putting this out here. It's really scary. And like, I don't know what you're going to do with it, but I'm going to put it out there. I love it. And again, keep that word where you're going to see it, even if it has coffee splattered all over it. All right, our next P is patterns. Again, this is a really good time to pause, especially as we head into a new season. Are there things that you want to start doing? Maybe you've done them in the past and you need to restart. Maybe it's something you've been saying you want to do, and so you want to be consistent with it. Are there things you want to continue doing? There are already patterns and habits and routines and rhythms that you're developing. Are there ones that you want to stop? You're like, you know what? This is a rabbit trail, like we were talking about as we got on the call. This is just, taking time and attention or resources or whatever it is away from these other things that matter. Maybe it's more, some things are, some Skittles have kind of gotten their way in. And it could be as tangible as when you pick up your phone first time in the day, or it could be something about how you're taking thoughts cap. I mean, can be all kinds of different things, right? But I want you to pause and see if you can come up with one for each one, because I think sometimes it's good to challenge ourselves. What's one thing I want to start doing? One thing I want to continue doing. I mean, we are on the monthly planning page, so flip to whatever the next month is in your planner. It's the monthly brain dump and the monthly planning right next to each other. Sorry, I didn't see your question. And then what is one thing that you are like, not doing this anymore? This is going to stop. And then I'm going to ask you to share one of them. You can share all three if you want to, because here's the thing. When we write it down, when we think about it, I shared this with the CEOs this morning, you have a 10% chance of it actually happening. When we write it down, you're up to 42%. So just the fact that you're writing it down, thinking about it and writing it down, you're like almost 50% chance that you're going to do it. But when you are accountable and share it with somebody else, you go up to 76%. And then when you've got accountability, like I'm actually meeting with somebody, like the CEOs and I do every Monday and Thursdays, now we jump to 95%, right? It could even be that you start using the community in a much more intentional way. Maybe that's your accountability, right? Like, okay, this is something I really want to do. Then what's that going to look like? I love that, Danielle. Yes, we need resistance training in this age. I found a lady who does all these like workouts for women over 50, and I really like her. She's got, a lot of different ones that are low impact and strength building and different parts of your body. I'll find the name of it and drop it in our community or send it off to you. But yeah, so there are 10-minute ones and then there are longer ones. So usually I'm finding something that's like 10 to 20 minutes or whatever. But all right, so a start, a continue, and a stop. That's going to be my continue one, doing her thing. I do those Monday through Friday. Should just look it up right now. Okay, Fabulous 50s is what it's called. And she's got a whole bunch of different ones. Fabulous 50s. I don't know where she's from, but she's got a fun little accent, so I do enjoy that part. Well, writing daily. Love it. Is it, I always wonder as a writer, Emmy, and I've had some conversations with writers, like, is it better to write a little bit each day, or is it better to like get chunks of time, like bigger chunks of time? Because I talk to some writers and they're like, I just have to be in the practice of it. And I talk to other writers who are like, I get in the flow and then I have to stop, and then it's so hard to like pick it back up and get back in the flow again. So yeah, yes to both of them, or
You really need both. And I just because sometimes like you get strong inspiration and if you don't get it out on paper, like you just feel like you're gonna explode. But then you also need the discipline of doing it daily, or even if you like take a day off, but like most days, just to keep yourself moving forward. It helps a lot. And yeah. I've been in seasons where I've done it really well and other seasons that I have not. So this is a
yeah.
season where I got to figure out how to do it really well again.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And figuring out what does well look like for me, and maybe even how can I stair step into that, right? So maybe it's like this is what I'm working towards. Because sometimes when we set these new habits and it's like, the bar is all the way at where we want to be, then when we fail, enough times in a row, we get frustrated and kind of discouraged and fall off. So figuring out how to work our way there and be consistent is always key. Maybe you step it yourself up, so 1 week at a time, you're doing a little bit more. All right, our next P is plans. Okay, and again, here's where we check in with what is my current one thing focus, especially if you're using the 12-week focus cycle that, the planner is set up around. Based on when you pick this up or when you started your last one, you may be at the beginning of one, you may be in the middle of one, you may be at the end of one. So if you're doing them based on the quarters of this year, that's where I am. I'm finishing up, one in the month of September, and then I'll be starting my last 12-week cycle in October. So it doesn't really matter where you are, or if you don't even have one right now. Like, what is that one thing focus that you want to have for the next 12 weeks? Did you know? So we started this call off. Some of you weren't on here. 4 months from today is Christmas. Just want to let you know. I know some of you love that. So yes, you probably know that. Some people stress out when they hear that, right? Some people get super excited. But like 12 weeks from the end of this week, we're going to be 1 week out from Thanksgiving. So when you think about, okay, what did I say back in January I really wanted to see happen or do, whether it's in your business, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in your health, whether it's in a ministry, like, and here's where we can recommit to that because we do still have plenty of time. Here's where we don't want to like next year it, right? And just go, oh, well, shoulda, woulda, coulda. So really, I want you to like in this section today, either decide for the first time of what it's going to be or recommit to what that one thing focus is for these next 12 weeks so that, right, you are thinking about how am I intentionally putting time towards what that one thing is. And if you want accountability, drop it in the chat. We would love to hear. I'll share what mine is. So mine is finishing up the up leveling of CEO Impact 2.0. I started it, and then I was trying to like do it and the CEO time warp, and I just felt like my brain and my body were going in two different directions, even though they were connected. And so I like literally just had to put it aside for about 3 weeks, and it was the best thing that I've done because now I don't feel rushed. I feel like I have tons of space to really focus in on the CEO time warp thing. And guess what? Next week, when all this is over, then I can give that, that clear focus to 2.0 and get it done in the month of September. So it didn't happen, by the timeline I had originally set, but it was a very intentional delay earlier this month when I knew I wasn't going to be able to do both well and I was going to be stressed out just trying to get it done just to get it done. So yeah, Danielle, finalizing module recordings and the course landing page. Yes, I love it. And here's what I'm going to encourage you to do. If you haven't done this already, with that one thing in mind, flip to your monthly spread. And what milestones do you need to put on here? They're going to keep you on track to being where you want to be with this one thing focus by the end of September. So maybe, like for me, I want to have this thing done by the end of September, Lord willing. But maybe for you, it's just like the first phase or the first whatever, right? Like, so go ahead and put those on here. So that way, each week as you do your weekly planning, you're able to grab those, right? They should also be in your 12-week plan as well. If you're using the 12-week plan each season, then it helps you to kind of like, again, it helps me to pay attention to be like, okay, here's how many weeks I have this month. Here's how I can space this out instead of it just being on a should do list or a to do list. And then, what happens? It's like the end of the month and then you're scrambling trying to fit it in. So take a few minutes and think about how can you break that down, whatever part of that you want to do in the month of September. For those of you who are using the 12-week planning process, or maybe those of you who haven't, can I just highly encourage you that this is the way that we have this bigger vision with a smaller focus and actually see things happen in less time, right? It's like going, okay, what's the one thing focus that's moving me towards this bigger thing? And then how do I break this down into the monthly milestones and the weekly targets so that I can take those daily actions or whatever days you're doing it? It makes it so much more doable. And then you're not worried about like what's coming up down the pike. I just had a really cool VIP session with a member from our community this past week. She's launching a book. She has a contract with a big name publisher that you would recognize. She came into our VIP session with a plan, with a to-do list, and even with a 12-week plan, sort of, except she was feeling super overwhelmed because it was so high level that it didn't really give her like that clarity of like what exactly she was doing each week. And it didn't help her to see like when things needed to be started. She just had like, get this done. Well, some of the things ended up, they were like a couple, like 3 weeks in a row that we had to break up that task in order to be able to fully complete it. And so after spending a VIP session together, like she was like, Lissa, like now I have clarity, I've got confidence, that I know exactly what to do. And there's a lot that she has to do to launch this book. And again, she can't push that timeline back because it's coming from somebody else, right? So she's got to make this happen. But she doesn't have to worry about what's going on in weeks 10, 11, and 12 right before the launch because she's in, week 2 right now of what that is. And so just the freedom of that she was sharing, she's like seeing it in black and white and having all of these steps mapped out. And again, she came in saying, I've already got a 12-week plan list. So like I've already mapped it out. I know what I have to do each week, but it wasn't really helping her. It was just overwhelming her. So I encourage you to really go into this process. I give you, a training that comes with the course that comes with the planner to help you with that. But if that's something that you want more support on, either if you're already a CEO client of mine, you know where you can come and ask me for that. But if you're not, and you're like, I would love someone to sit down with me and help me do what you just did for this gal and map some of these things out. Can talk to you about what that would look like and the difference that can make for you. So just plugging for the 12-week system because a lot of people tell me, oh, I've read the 12-week year. I'm like, yeah, I read it too. And just reading it doesn't do anything. It's the implementing. And I think the thing they get that wrong, if you read the 12-week year, is like the examples they give. You've got like 5 or 6 different like goals you're working on at the same time. And I'm like, hello, talk about distracted focus. So I like kind of going, okay, what's my one thing focus over the next 12 weeks? And, again, it doesn't mean we don't do anything else, but that's the focus of the 12-week process is something that's really going to move the needle in your business or, in some other area. So yeah, it's exciting to be at a launch. Yes. So this is what I felt like Danielle when the planner launched. I was like 12-week plan, 12-week plan, 12-week plan to get the thing out there. And then it was like now it's like birthing a baby, 9 months in utero, and then you got to keep the thing alive, right? So then the next 12-week plan became, okay, what do I do with this thing now that it's out there? And believe me, there's just as much work to do after it gets out into the world as there was, putting it out there in the first place. So that's why, these 12-week plans help us focus just on the next phase and what that looks like. So all right, what's our next one in here? Preview. Okay, so here's where we get our monthly spread in front of us. If you haven't already, put the dates in. The first starts next Monday. Um, and there's 30 days in September, just in case you needed that reminder of that little rhyme from elementary school. So put those dates in there. Make sure you have them in for the month of September. And then what we're going to do is we are going to look ahead at the things that are coming up, right? I've got a little checklist for you over on the side. You got your planner in front of you. There's a checklist on the side. The first thing we put on there are our weekly Sabbaths and our Selah pauses, right? Because we're giving him the first fruit and we're remembering that, yeah, we don't own it all. And we will actually get more done in 24/6 than we would in 24/7. Then the next thing is personal events and commitments. Are there places you have to be and things you have to do? Whether it's a big thing, we have a wedding this month for our niece, or maybe it's something small. Maybe it's something at church, or maybe it's an appointment that you've made with the doctor. Like, get it on paper where you can see it. I am like soapbox, or when we just live off of our Google Calendar on our phone, you cannot see how things flow in your month and in your week if we're just looking at it vertically on our phone. Now, I know some people like to like look at the month or the week at a glance or month at a glance on a Google type thing, which is better, right? But I think we don't have any sense of time when it just is one long list of appointments and things like that on our phone. So this is where there's value, I believe, in being able to see it in front of you, and then you can see how much space is in between things or not in between things, right? Which is maybe where you need to put a little bit of margin or white. Maybe you're going to block some white space because you're noticing things are getting too piled up, or maybe you're going to move something. So then after your personal events and commitments, your work events and commitments, whether it's meetings, whether it's a seminar that you're signed up for, whether it's something that you're hosting, are those things laid out so that you can see where they are so it doesn't become a surprise when that week comes. And then, of course, we kind of talked about this already, your 12-week plan, monthly milestones. What is it that you're looking to see happen over this next month that's moving you towards that 12-week focus? So I'll give you a few minutes to preview this month and make sure that everything is in front of you and not just in your head and not just on your phone. Oh, and just so you know, our next planning call is Monday the 29th. So put that on there. That should be one of your commitments if you find value in these, I should say. This is why I love doing things in pencil because I'm using my big pink eraser right now because I had something mapped out that is adjusting. I don't know what month you're on, but the month that I'm on for August, the quote is, "There is no perfect time. There is right now, and God is fully present." I always love these because I chose these over a year ago, right? Not knowing, like, just wanting to find, some quotes about time from people that are speaking into things from a spiritual perspective. And I like that one.
I have to share mine because I'm back from you. Prioritizing daily time with the author of time is one of the primary ways we can demonstrate our devotion to the Lord.
Author, look at that right there. Emmy's supposed to be writing. The author of time is the one who's created you to be an author. I think God's trying to get Emmy's attention. I didn't see the end of your message, Danielle. Yes, that's a next week problem. You are right. It is a next week, not problem. It's a next week focus. It's a next week question, right? Yes, I love it. Huh, look at me. I scheduled something that I just realized I'm going to be out of town for. So good thing I look at me double booking myself. I didn't have my out of town thing on here when I scheduled something with somebody, and I will need to change that. Even time strategists double book themselves or overlook things. This too does happen. Ah, it was in my head. It wasn't on my calendar. And can I just tell you the number of women that signed up for our women's conference that we're going to, which is what the thing was here, that now are backing out because they realize they have a conflict on their calendar or whatever. And I even jokingly said to, my couple girls on my ministry team, I should do a seminar at church again on time. And here I am double booking myself, not for that, but something else. So we can all do it. God's got a sense of humor. All right. Our next P is pace. How are you going to commit to slowing down the pace of this month? Maybe the beginning of it feels really full. Maybe the middle of it feels really full. Maybe the end of it feels full, or maybe you just want to be able to pace yourself so that you're not like a typical salesperson, right? Who towards the last couple of days of the month, we get way more done than we did all month just because, we were coasting the first couple of weeks. Where are you going to build in some margin or white space? It's okay to put it on your calendar and make an appointment with yourself or with the Lord. Maybe Emmy has some writing time. Or maybe it's some time to celebrate, Danielle, that you've launched this thing before you just jump right into the next phase of it. Or Debbie, I know you were talking about some time after some of these big, clients you're working on, like having some time to catch a breath. If we don't plan it in, it's not going to happen. It will get filled with something. Yeah, or not putting things. I love Danielle's comment. I'm not committing to very many things this month outside of this launch because I know how much energy peopling requires, mental and emotional. So true, right? Yeah, I intentionally cleared out white space this week so that I could be showing up fully present and available for what we're doing with CEO Time Warp this week. And feels a little funny to like not have as much on my in my planner this week, but it's a good thing, right? There's lots of white space, and I think that margin will be very, very important. All right, we've got a few minutes before we pray, but I would love to just open it up. If you have a question or something that's come up for you as you're, previewing this next month, and as you're kind of thinking about how things fit, or what matters, or what to focus on, or things like that, is there something that I can help you with? Okay, it's been a ton of time just based on the time that it is, but I'm happy to, answer a question or two if something is on your heart or mind. Or maybe something you've noticed just as you're going through this process. Maybe it's not a question or challenge. Maybe it's a great thing, something to be encouraging to others.
Well, I think one thing for me is always trying to match up my time and my energy.
Hmm.
I'm pretty energetic. I mean, I'm, going and doing a lot of things, but since I am like, I know some of the others, working, you know,
Hmm.
like morning, I'm a morning person, so I do my, my quiet time and my devotionals then. And by the time I get home, after, usually I go work out a few days a week. By the time I get home, fix dinner, I really don't want to go sit at a desk again. I
Sure.
don't, I just don't have, I don't know, yeah, the
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a great thing to notice, Mary, right? Like when in my day, when in my week, when in the month, do I have more energy, more focus, more, whatever? And when am I feeling a little bit more, run down or tired? And
Mhm.
so, yeah, if you're trying to schedule important things that you need to do for your business in the evenings all the time, once in a while, it's okay. But
Mhm.
maybe you find a way to do that over some lunchtime, or maybe you find a way to do that, maybe there's like a power hour, a power half hour that you can squeeze in the morning once in a while just to kind of get in on some of that energy. Or maybe, maybe it's a Saturday morning type thing that you save certain things for when you don't have to, be heading off to work or those kinds of things. So like get curious around like when do I feel my best, and also thinking about when are things kind of falling off the rails? Like when do I put something in a time spot to do, but typically I kind of keep just pushing it off. I keep kicking that can down the road. Then that's a good time to really evaluate. Is this the best time? The other thing you can look at too is like how can you, and Danielle can probably speak to this too, because she's building a business and working a full-time, job as well, is like how in that transition between, working for someone else and then working on your business, like what is something I can do that is going to like refill, right? Whether it's body, mind, spirit, that can kind of get me into that mode for that next time period. If, because sometimes it is like sometimes we just have to do things we don't want to do at a time we don't really feel like doing it. So then it has to
Yeah.
be connected to a bigger why. I mean, like I always say, what's going to get you off the couch and keep you up from going back on the couch, right? Or what's going to get you out of bed and keep you from crawling back under the covers or fill in whatever your thing is, right? Um, yeah, so thinking about, so maybe if it is during a time where I don't have as much energy, like how can I either attach something right before it or right after it, that, maybe would in some way be energizing or motivating. around that. We actually did a series be about a year and a half ago. So it was a year ago, May, on motivation styles. So I don't know if you remember that one that was on the podcast. So go back to May of 2024. And we talked about habits and habit formation. And then we talked about like knowing which of the four habit styles, habit motivation styles you are. Because for some people, it's like you're very much a connector. And so like having other people like so for example, like my friend who was on the podcast as the connector, she's a very people person. And so like she will go to the gym because of the trainer or because of her friend who's going with her or because of thinking about the trip that she's going to take with her grandson and she wants to feel, like she can crawl on the floor with him. It's always connected to people versus my friend who was on that panel and she's more of like an information person. She's got to understand why it makes sense. What is it about this that like, that will get me over the hump if I don't feel like it. If I know that there's a reason for this, then I will do it. Then there's the person who like it has to be like really tied to their identity. Like I am the kind of person who does this. I want to be the person who, and so it's really more of this like core thing. And then there's a person like me, I was the fourth one, who is, I just have to create a schedule and a system around it. And, then I will execute it because I don't want to not check that box. I mean, there are times when there is a box there and I don't check it, but my personality or motivation style is much more, I said I was going to do it. I've already got a time. I already have a plan. Now I just need to execute. So yeah, so go back maybe and listen to there was one with the panel and then should have been like an episode probably the week before that where I laid out the four different types. And that might be helpful because different things are going to motivate different people, right? So Danielle, not a people person, is not going to be motivated by the fact that a bunch of people are going to be at the gym. That might make her go, oh, I don't really want to go to the gym then. So I'll go do that lady online, right? Yeah. All right.
That's good.
How can we pray for you this month? If there's a way that we can be praying for you this month, please drop that in the chat. I know, Debbie, you've got a granddaughter wedding coming up. I hope you figured out your dress situation. I know you were talking about that a couple weeks ago. Danielle has been talking about launching her new cohort course and what's going on with that. Emmy, we know there's a baby in utero. And so, yeah, being in that process and trying to birth this business out into the world is a very real thing too. And Mary, you shared about some rabbit trails. So yeah, there are other specific things. And you're moving at the beginning of October. Okay. I know you talked about a place that you were hoping to go, but let us know kind of where in the country or is the Manor family going to be when you guys find out. Hopefully not as warm as where you've been. Or maybe because you'll be going into winter, maybe you do want to go warmer because yeah, by then you'll want that. So all right. Well, if there's anything specific, drop it in there. If not, then I will just pray over us and into the next month. Lord, thank you for your presence with us. God, I thank you just for the reminder that I read this morning. I think I was in Second Corinthians like 5 or 6, you know where it was, that you choose to dwell with your people. And God, we don't understand why you would choose us some days because we're a little distracted. We're a little all over the place. We're a little easily, swayed this way and that. And yet, because of your great love for us, you have chosen to be in relationship with us. And so we just thank you for that. God, I pray that you would give us that single-minded focus that we talked about from the beginning that Paul had about our one thing is knowing you. Our one thing is pleasing you in what we do and how we use our time. So God, whether it's in our business, whether it's in our work that we do, whether it's in our family, our health, our ministry, our homes, God, I pray that we would have this bigger vision of how this ties into knowing you and doing what it is that you've called us to and being faithful stewards. So, God, we lift all of these things that we've talked about on our time together today, and even the things that have been getting written down that I don't even know are on people's calendars or hearts or minds. Lord, you see it. You know it. Just as the CEOs and I talked about this morning, we are planning our course right now. We're planning the map for the next month, but you are the one that establishes our steps, the day to day and the actual things that happen. And so we want to be open-handed and we want to be expectant and we want to be on this journey with you and seeing you as our daily provision. And so I thank you for this time to pause and to lay our plans before you. And so God, we give you the glory for all that you're going to do in this next month. That is way beyond what we could ask or imagine. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Well, thanks for being here. And I will hopefully see you guys at CEO Time Warp this week, or at least on replays. So wave to me if you're watching a replay. So that way I know you're there. And yeah, I will see you guys around the community or on our community call next time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.